Our last speaker for this morning, before we gather everybody together for a group conversation, is Chiara Zuccarino-Crowe, who is the Tourism and Recreation Coordinator for the National Marine Sanctuaries National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. And her conversation is going to be talking about their really awesome, cool virtual dives. So come on out.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Huzzah! Yes. All right. Thank you, Grace, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. And one of the last steps before your ice cream social. So it's a hard series of presentations to follow. I'm really honored to be here talking among such a great crowd and amazing work going on. And right now, at this hour of the afternoon, I'm going to take you to, make sure I know how this works, the National Marine Sanctuary System. And these are like underwater parks designated and managed for the American people, this and future generations, places of significance for natural and cultural resources. And we want people to care about them and enjoy them. And a lot of the communities around these national marine sanctuaries value them. They're the recreational activities that happen in sanctuaries, the vast majority of which are open to recreational activities, generate a large amount of economic activity for the communities that live there. I don't need to tell you guys this, you've been hearing all about it. But this also applies to underwater activities and above water activities, wildlife viewing, diving, snorkeling, recreational fishing. Happens in sanctuaries. And these communities care about sanctuaries. I care about sanctuaries. I want all of you to care about sanctuaries. I want the rest of the American public that doesn't know about sanctuaries to care about sanctuaries. As a very wise ocean explorer once said, people protect what they love. So, despite how wonderful this nice color-coordinated map is, I'm guessing you might not be inspired to go to it. So I'm gonna work on that a little with you today. But how do we get inspired about visiting someplace we can't see? I personally am inspired by this because I'm a water nerd, but I can appreciate that there's another level of how to seek that wonder underneath the water. So, unfortunately, only 1% of the US population can scuba dive. That means 99% of the more than 325 million people in the United States probably won't experience this. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I think they should. I'm a certified scuba diver and snorkeler, which there are more of us. But that said, there's this challenge of how do we bring people to sanctuaries? How do we get them to care? How do we get them to recognize these resources that are really important and part of our cultural fabric as a maritime nation? So, enter virtual reality. Luckily, thanks to Mark earlier, you guys had a great introduction to the wonders of 360-degree video. But as it relates to underwater virtual reality, there's an extra challenge of, taking pictures underwater, having underwater housings, et cetera. And luckily, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration was able to partner with XL Catlin Seaview Survey several years ago to do a pilot study of trying to track different places in national marine sanctuaries and across the world, but in sanctuaries as well, and take a look in 360 degrees at what they looked like so we could track changes, introduce people to these places, and that project transformed into an organization known as the Ocean Agency that gave us the technological capacity to get these underwater images of sanctuaries in 3 dimensions. So we took that and we built a website where we put these 360-degree images so that, as awesome as apps are, we wanted to make these places and recreation in these places as accessible as possible to anybody with an internet connection. It'd be great to get everyone to download an app, but I can barely get people to remember that a national marine sanctuary exists and is open to recreation. So I'm just trying to get people excited. Right now, we have 7 national marine sanctuaries that are available for virtual dives. And today, I'm going to show you how, with as little of the click of a button and an internet or cellular data connection, you too can see sanctuaries and share it with other people. So we're going to go on a little bit of a virtual dive. I will be your virtual dive master. Consider this your pre-dive briefing just now. If you have an Android phone, I recommend you identify Dive Buddy, who might have an iOS device. So take out your phones. I know you all have been looking at them all day anyway, but now you're supposed to look at them. So take them out. And I want you to send a text message to the number 24587. And I want you to text the word dive. And hopefully, you'll get this. Standard text messaging rates do apply, of course. And this is just a fun way of getting you a link to the website I just mentioned. And I want you to go to it. And use this as a way to kind of have your ocean window view to national marine sanctuaries. You can put it on full screen. If you have a set of what I call your, dive mask with you, or your VR goggles, you can see it in stereoscopic view. If you're having trouble and you have an Android device and you don't have a Dive Buddy, text Ocean instead, and that'll take you to another site that will work with Android devices right now. And right now, hopefully, you are currently in the Valley of the Giants. This is in the National Marine Sanctuary of American Samoa. Right now, you're looking at what is affectionately known as Big Mama. It is the largest coral head in the world, we think. No one's proven us wrong. Its circumference, 41 meters. Not 41 feet. Metric system, folks. 41 meters. That's huge. You can see that little diver in the corner for a comparison of scale. Thank you. So feel free to navigate back to the rest of the website, look at other dives, other sanctuaries. And part of the reason of doing this, obviously we want you to go visit them, but also it's a really great talking point, a really great way to show people about the type of work NOAA does in national marine sanctuaries. What's that value added? Why should you care? Why should you protect them? Why should you work with organizations to conserve them and get people out in them? We can tell about the research we're doing. Some of our dives will show you work we're doing on ocean noise. You can do a dive underwater and see a hydrophone there, listening for noises under the ocean. Or you can go to another spot in American Samoa, and you can look at a beautiful reef in 360 degrees and look around and see what it looks like to see a field of coral under the waves. And then with the click of a button, you can go back there during a hard warming event and see bleached coral. And you'll know what it feels like to look around and everywhere, as far as your eye can see bleached, stressed coral. Coral that's kicked out its symbiotic algae, kind of like its roommate. Like, it's too hot in here, get out of my apartment. And the algae leaves, and then the coral doesn't have a way to really live. And if that bleaching event is severe enough, that coral will die. So with another click of a button, you can go back and look as if you were there in person 6 months down the road and see, did that coral make it? Was it able to get its roommates to move back in? This particular site didn't. So then you see what that coral looks like, not just in a photo, but you turn around and see what it looks like, dead and covered in algae. Bad algae, not the symbiotic kind. And on this website, you can also see these images if you want to, but they're a little depressing. So also, we have awesome images, so they're not all sad stories. Some of them are good ones, but I just want to illustrate the educational components of this. And we've been doing this around the country as just a way to introduce people to something that we really care about, and we're hoping we'll get people interested in going to visit themselves. It's a wonderful visual aid for a talking point, And since it's something that's accessible to anyone with access to the internet, you can be in a meeting with head of an agency and say, hey, these sanctuaries we're talking about, that's what it looks like. Look around, spin around. You can be meeting with a congressman and say, hey, this sanctuary that I care about, this is actually what it looks like. This is the shipwreck I like to go diving with my friends, and this is why I care. And it's not a solution to all the world's problems, but it's definitely a way to get people inspired. And our hope is that we can go from this to inspiring this. So where will you go? Thank you.